joining me. Today, I feature Tonya Marie, who is a law of attraction coach, and we talk about law of attraction, grief, and the mental load of motherhood. So I hope you'll stick around and check this out.
Yeah.
We're going to put it back.
Where did this work? Okay, cool. So this is Tonya Marie, and I'm Stacey Short, and we are both coaches. And so today we thought we'd have just a real, genuine, off-the-cuff conversation about coaching, about life, about limiting beliefs, about the breaking of the paradigms, and whatever else comes out of our mouth today. And so for those of you that don't know me, my name is Stacey Short. I'm a transformational life coach. I help women struggling with exhaustion due to loss of identity and putting everybody else's needs ahead of theirs. And so they feel anxious and overwhelmed and frustrated and probably a little pissed off. And so, Tonya, would you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, my name is Tonya Marie, and I am a certified life mastery consultant with the Brave Thinking Institute. I was certified in 2001, but I have been studying this information since 2014. When my original dream was to open a school to teach children the laws of the universe so that they have a better life in the future, an easier life. And 7 years after my dream, they tore down the school. And so I thought my big dream was dead. And that's when I had to come to a decision. It took that much pain to make me decide for myself, for all the kids that could have had something, and I put off the dream. So that's my dream, is to help parents and children learn the laws of the universe to help their lives be better.
And what do you think, if there was like one law that you could not teach us fully right now, but give a little snippet in, what would the first law need to be of people wanting to get into this and wanting to understand the laws of the universe? Which one should they look at first?
Well, let's see. The law of attraction was big with The Secret when The Secret came out years and years ago.
Yeah.
And it's basically what you put out, you get back. So I think that a lot of parents, they're having trouble with their kids, emotional. They're emotional at school, they're emotional at home, they're just out of control because they really don't understand the difference between being angry or being sad. And so they learn these emotions, I'm sorry, I have to be the hard guy, from their parents. So things are caught, not taught. So it's important to teach the parent to control their emotions, to speak about their emotions. If the kid does something that makes them angry, for them to say, look, you're making me angry, and this is what anger is, and maybe you feel the same way, so that it's like a communication between them. So the law of attraction is like you're trying to get your kid to behave, but if he doesn't see you behaving, it just kind of, it's like a circle, and it's to stop that circle pattern and start with something new. You know, yesterday I was recording these little stories about I don't know, I found different things, and one dad had a problem with his son being angry all the time, and he says, okay, so here's a box of nails and here's a hammer, and every time you get angry you have to go hammer one of these nails into the fence. And so he'd get tired of hammering the nails, so he controlled his anger at small intervals until he got to a point where he didn't get angry anymore. And then the dad's like, well, for every day you're not angry, go pull one of the nails out. And so at the end, when all the nails were gone, the dad brought him back to the fence. And he's like, you know, every time you're angry, you put a hole and you can't fix the hole. So it was a good analogy of, when you get angry, you hurt people's feelings. It's a big thing. So the law of attraction basically is, you know, you have to keep control of what you're doing. If you're getting angry at things, you're going to get angry people back at you. But if you feel love and enlightenment, then you will attract people with love and enlightenment. And then you'll be more able to see opportunities that come by, because you won't be focused on whatever was making you angry. You'll be focused on the good. What's good out of this situation?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of my certifications is in positive intelligence. So I'm a mental fitness coach, and one of the paradigms in mental fitness is everything is a gift. And if you can take the crappiest situation and see the gift in it, then that actually rewires your brain. They've done studies, they've got the white paper, they have the peer review, and it actually rewired their participants' brain by being able to treat other people with empathy, understand that where they're coming from is a saboteur, most likely. So for those of you that don't know about positive intelligence, Shirzad Chamine, who is the researcher professor in it, Stanford University, has identified and labeled 10 different saboteurs. So negative self-talk voices, the ones that say, you're not enough, do more, that wasn't good enough, you know, why can't you, blah, 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 whatever that is, right? Or judges other people. Look at what she's wearing. Oh, I can't believe he said that. Or it judges life circumstances, which is like, well, this situation sucks. So there's 10 of those that live in your head. The first one's the judge, like I just said. And then there are other ones like avoider, which if you're a procrastinator, that's one. People pleaser, which is my number 2. Hypervigilance, controller, stickler. There's 10 of them, right? And so to fight them, Shirzad also identified and labeled 5 sage voices. And so one of those is the innovate. So how can I turn this into a gift? And so for those of you that don't know my story, I became a caretaker to my oldest in 2005 because he was born without an immune system, and my life changed completely. And when I wanted to be an LMFT and help people, I went back into food and beverage, and I went, back into serving tables because you're not missed, as badly. I mean, the team, it sucks for the team for sure, but nobody's mental health is depending on you being there if you're serving tables. And I did that for many, 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 many years. And to the point of I didn't even know who I was anymore without the labels of wife, mother, daughter, sister, caretaker, friend. If I remember, I started therapy in 2014, and my therapist said, "Who is Stacey?" I couldn't answer her for months. For months, I couldn't say who I was outside of any other role that I had been playing for so long. And so what I've learned is a bunch of resilience. So, while it sucks for him, still to this day, we struggle with his health and everything that, comes in with that. But by seeing the gift of resilience, I know that no matter what life throws at me, I'll be okay. And then a few years, ago, in 2016, I lost my baby brother to unaliving himself. And what I had learned from being that caretaker and earning that resilience was how to climb out of that. Now, that one was a pretty deep one. I'm not going to lie. That one was really deep for a really long time. But when I came out of it, I came out stronger.
You got me almost teary even thinking about something must have happened to my little brother. So
yeah, it was literally the worst thing in the world for me.
But what is worse? I mean, going through something so horrible that we all go through. Bad things happen to everybody. It's how you deal with those bad things. Or waking up one morning to your children being gone, living their own lives, and you have no clue what to do. You don't even know. You don't know who you are. I mean, someone out there might be listening to this, a mother that their kids are gone, or you could be a mother that has teenagers that are off all the time. And like, instead of just sitting worrying about what they're doing, why don't you find yourself? why don't you discover if you love to paint, if you love to read, if you love to learn, if you would love to help people by being a coach.
Right.
I mean, what are you like? That's got to be horrible, because I know I lived that. And my husband was like, what are you doing? Are you going through some crisis? And so you got backlash from the people that know you as,
Sure.
but who are you? Like, you know this person, but who is this person? Like, so if
Yeah.
someone out there is watching and you feel in this way, get in touch with Stacey, or get in touch with me.
One of us. Yeah.
We can help you. We can help you find out what your dream is, because the universe puts us here for a reason, and it's such a good feeling to know what you're here for. You can
Oh
learn new
gosh.
things.
Yeah.
It's you can help people, whatever it is you want. We can help you discover that. If
Yeah,
we,
absolutely. And help you give yourself permission to do it. I always knew I wanted to help people. That was not that was forever. When I was younger, I wanted to be a pediatrician. When I hit 14 and I met one of my best friends from high school, I got interested in psychology and wanted to be an LMFT. Um, but when Bryce was born and everything shifted, I didn't think I'd ever be back here, because I thought that this is what life's always going to look like, and that I was always going to have sacrifice. I'm also a people pleaser and codependent, by nature, by upbringing, or recovering people pleaser and recovering codependent. It's kind of how I put that now. And so I didn't know what life looked like outside of giving myself to the point of exhaustion to others. And now what I've discovered is I did that because I was so afraid that if I didn't do that, if I wasn't indispensable to you, that you would leave me and I would be abandoned and I would be alone and lonely. And so I did absolutely everything I could to be indispensable to whomever in order for them to be my friend. I didn't realize I was manipulating people. It wasn't out of malice, definitely not out of malice, but it is manipulation. And I remember, Bryce was going through his stuff and I was managing a restaurant, and two of the servers there had kids, and they were like, hey, I'm having trouble with childcare. And I'm like, oh, just bring them by. Just bring them by the house. So I had my two kids and then, a baby, like a literal baby, and a toddler that I would watch. And then I'd go to work. So it was like there was no break, there was no breathing, there was nothing. And then when they tried to pay me, I declined. Which I just look back now and go, oh gosh, Stacey, like you wanted so badly to be important to other people, but you were never important to yourself. And I think that that's probably what makes me saddest of all. When I look back on my life at that woman who I used to be, I'm just so sad for her because she didn't feel enough without others' validation. Yeah, it's rough.
yeah, I discovered after my children were, they were in their later teens, that the only person in the whole wide world that I have control over is myself. And if I'd have learned that when my kids were little, I'd have had a better relationship with my husband. I'd have had a better relationship with everyone, because it's easy to say, like, you say something to me and I take offense to it, but it's really a reflection of them. It has nothing to do with me.
Right.
So it's finding yourself, your inner self, the spirit of you, and knowing that each one of us is put here on earth the same. We're each born with the same qualities, the same opportunities, the same. I mean, we're each different and unique in our own separate way, but we all have the same chance at life, rich or poor. It doesn't matter the color of your skin, what region of the earth you live. Like, we all have those opportunities, but it's to know that. And that's what I want to teach these kids early on in life, to think outside the box and not just go
Yeah.
with the norm. Because I went from being my mom's daughter literally, people would see you on the street and say, hey, you're Betsy's daughter, to being Troy's wife, to being Taylor's mom. And I was, what's wrong with me just being Tonya Marie? Like, so
Yeah,
that's a big
absolutely.
thing, especially with moms.
Yeah, especially with caretakers as a whole, not necessarily a mother, but you might be taking care of your older brother or your mother or whatever. It's that caretaking role that some of us naturally gravitate towards, that also signals that you probably are a people pleaser in some aspect. Like, that just kind of clicks and makes sense to me on that level. But yeah, so one conversation that I love that's happening more and more is on the mental load of motherhood, which absolutely wasn't a phrase when I was in the thick of it, 10 years ago or 5 years ago. And the first time I heard it was like 2 years ago. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's it. That's it. I felt like Atlas with the world on my shoulders because of the mental load that I was carrying around. And I'm so glad that we're having that conversation now. It needs to happen more. More people need to be aware of that conversation, and more partners need to be present to that mental load. And are you adding to it or taking from it? Because my partner, and I'm not here to bash my ex by any stretch. He did the best that he could with what he had to work with, but he added to my load, my mental load, on a consistent basis. And our life was hard. Our life was hard because he would work in the mornings, and then we would literally high five on the way out the door. And I would work in the evenings, 2, 3, 4, in the afternoon to 10, 11, 12 at night. And so we didn't have a lot of time together. And then when we did have time together, it was very much, well, what do you want to do for dinner? And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm just so tired. Can you cook? Well, yeah, okay, but what is there here? Or, what do you want? It's all those little micro choices every day that actually adds to somebody's level of exhaustion, especially when I've been making, literally life-saving, life-altering decisions throughout the day just to maintain my son's health, or get him the, therapies that he needed, or get the medicine that he needed, or fight this insurance company or that insurance company. It was exhausting. So the last thing I want to talk about is what I want for dinner. What is there in the pantry, and how do you make it? Like, at that point, I might as well just do it myself. And so there was no reprieve in any of that, in any of it.
That must be like the number one biggest problems with relationships. Because I've been married 36 years, and I asked my husband, what do you want to eat? And he says, I don't care, whatever you want. And I'm like, the universe hears you say, I don't care. Every time you say, I don't care. So you have to choose. So let's start breaking that small little process down to, I want to eat either Chinese, pizza, or this. And then right. I can have a say so in which 3 of the ones that I want. And then we can make a decision together. So it kind of brings us closer.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you could have said, okay, you eat dog food, I'm eating Chinese, since you don't care. Then he cares. Yes. Then he cares. So don't tell me I don't care, because yes, you do. Because here's kibble.
I always go to something that he hates, like what is the Japanese egg roll, the little rolls? Sushi. So you want sushi for dinner? And he's like, no.
Okay, then you do care. What that is a cop-out. That's a cop-out. And that's being lazy, being mentally lazy.
Right, but I think that on his part, he's just trying to accommodate me because I'm working all the time. He's like, whatever you want. But when in a relationship like us, we're trying to please everybody. If you're just trying to please me, that's not me feeling loved.
No, not at all. And when he's trying to accommodate you because you work all the time, and yet he's adding to that mental load by forcing that choice back on you.
Right.
and it's exhausting. And I don't think enough, I don't think we're just aware of that. But conversation is happening more and more. And I could not be happier about that, because I just think of like, man, if that conversation had happened 10 years ago, my life would have looked quite different. Quite different. And it's not that I regret how my life looks. I'm not saying that at all. It's just, if I could have mitigated some of the trauma that I went through, absolutely, I would want to do that. It's part of the reason why I became a coach. So I can mitigate that trauma for somebody else, or help them mitigate that trauma, right? I can't do it for you, but I can hold your hand and give you some behavior changes that will absolutely help that trauma not be as impactful as it could be otherwise. Or, you know, walking through, what's another big one? People just being in toxic work relationships, you know, or working in a position that is just a pay the bills job versus your passion, right? That's a big one too. A bunch of us just working and pay the bills jobs. And I did that. Until last year.
Well, I did
So,
that as well, but I didn't have a passion. Like I didn't know what I wanted to be. I just did whatever paid the bills. And it's kind of like so that's important that you find what your passion is. Um, Napoleon Hill calls it your definiteness of purpose. It's what lights you up, what makes you want to wake up in the morning. So when I think of anyone that I helped, my go-to is one of our friends, Sammy, in the Jeep Club. And I met him about 6 years ago, and he drank all the time and he was miserable. And he used to go to the grocery store to get a beer and some cigarettes. And he'd use like 4 different credit cards to pay for a beer and a pack of cigarettes. I'm like, Sammy, you're broke all the time. You're miserable. You're drunk. So I started explaining to him how the law of attraction works. And after about 6 months or so, he decided that he was going to prove me wrong. He's like, I prove you wrong. So he goes off for about a year and he comes back and he's done bought a house. He doesn't drink anymore. He's got a better job. His relationship's better. And he's like, you changed my whole life. And I'm like, well, I mean, I wasn't even a life coach back then. I was just teaching what I was learning.
yeah.
And he's like, I was out to prove you wrong. And I'm so thankful that you just planted those seeds, because it wasn't even really study. I just planted some seeds and he just did his own. And that feeling, when him saying like, you changed my whole life, it's the fuzzy feeling in your heart, in your stomach, gets you teary. That's a passion.
Yeah.
And that's every one of us has a passion. Every one of us has something that turns us on.
And a natural talent. And a natural talent for it too, because we were talking before we started recording about, you know, how long you've been coaching, And I said, well, professionally, 3.5 years, but theoretically, since middle school. I've been the advice friend. I've always been the one. Now, some of that is my people pleasing and codependency for sure, but I also have this natural intuition for reading people. And so, I do. I was going to discount that, but no, I'm not going to discount that. And so, you know, coaching is just a really great vehicle to use that natural intuition of, I heard what you just said, but I don't know if I believe what you just said, or I don't think you believe what you just said, or
your body language is saying something totally different.
Exactly. And some of that did absolutely come from,
I'm happy, doggone it.
Yeah, right. Sure, buddy. I thought for the longest time I was an empath. Like, really, I legitimately thought I was an empath for a very, very, very long time. And then I got into therapy. And what I realized instead is, no, I had to learn to read my mother. I had to learn to read my biological father for my own emotional safety and wellness. And so I'm not an empath. I'm really freaking good at reading the vibes in the room of how people walk into the room, their footsteps, how they breathe. Yeah, it's not an energy thing like empaths are. It's a body language thing, because I can tell when somebody is tense, because I grew up like that. I grew up with a mom who was great, and then she wasn't. And those were the two. She was like the perfect mom. My house was the hangout house. Everybody loved my mom, my mom, my mom. And then she wasn't. And yeah, that's been lifelong healing, but especially in the last 9 years. Because gosh, thankfully I was in therapy in 2014. Because when my brother died in 2016, I don't think I'd be here right now if I hadn't been in therapy already. Honestly, because that was yeah, I thought Bryce being born sick was the worst thing that would ever happen to me. But no. No, it wasn't. No, it
So
wasn't.
I still see the sadness in you, though.
Yeah. Oh,
So
I don't know that it'll ever go away.
You found the lesson, the gift in the things that went wrong by you losing the people, by your mom changing. Like the gifts that came from that was you're able to be this life coach and give more to your children, and you're able to give more to your clients.
Right. No, 1000%.
Love and compassion.
So if anybody, they'll tell me, if anybody knows me, they'll tell you that I would do anything to have my brother back. Even for 5 seconds. I'd give it all away. All of it. Wouldn't even think twice. But since that's not possible, I'm going to turn this into the best freaking thing I can to honor him. And he would want me to do this in some capacity. And so I am.
Right. So if you did get that 5 minutes to talk to him and he saw you sad like this, what would he say to you? Would he want to see you sad like this?
No, of course not. I think he thought he was doing us a favor, because he struggled with bipolar and he struggled with addiction. And I think he genuinely thought that he was doing us a favor by not causing all of these, issues in the family any longer, and us being worried about where is he, what's he doing, is he in jail?
So what if he was trying to take away your pain? Because he genuinely didn't want to see you in pain, but now you're in pain.
Yeah, I really think that in the end, that's what he thought he was doing. I don't think he knew he was creating so much more pain. I still have a lot of questions around him leaving. I still have a lot of questions, and I won't ever get them answered, but they're there.
It sounds to me, if I could coach you a little bit.
Yeah, of course.
That you have some forgiveness to do. And forgiveness maybe towards him for doing that to you. Forgiveness maybe for you because you may feel like you had other things going on in your life that you couldn't give him the support that he needed, that he could have went on a different track. And that's okay that you didn't do that. So I suggest that you sit down with a piece of paper, and you write down all the things that are making you angry at him, angry at yourself, sad, disappointed, frustrated. And then you just rage it out and let all those emotions go. And then just sit for 10, 15 minutes and meditate and just release it. Do your breathing exercises as to you're like blowing out this smoky brown smelly stuff, and then you're just breathing in some beautiful white light. And
I love that idea.
Allow your body to just and then destroy your paper, burn it, burn away. It's amazing. And they said that forgiveness is not a one and done. It's not a one and done. So if it comes up again, you have to You have to acknowledge, this is how I feel. This is what's making me feel this way. So let me do something to change the way I feel around. It's just moving the energy around what happened.
For sure. For sure. I didn't move the energy for many, many, many years, including, from my childhood, not just Nathan and that, but from my childhood and growing up a codependent and a people pleaser. And now I have fibromyalgia because of it. It caused chronic pain because of what I internalized of not being good enough, not being fast enough, strong enough, smart enough. Like I was never enough. And my parents, they did the best that they could, but they were very much like, oh, you got to be one on an A. Great job, next time an A. So it was never enough for them too. And that's difficult to grow up like that. So I'm really familiar with moving the energy and not allowing it to get stuck in my body. And this is a continuous process in the forgiveness of all the things that happened to allow Nathan to leave this earth. And some days are easier than others. Some days I still get bowled over by grief. And those days are just those days. I used to try to push it down and say, I can't deal with you right now. Like, you gotta, I can't right now. I don't. And what would happen is it would come back and take me out instead. So now, if I get hit, the least inconvenient place is driving, of course. But if I get hit with a wave of grief, I just pull over, grieve it, cry it out, dry my eyes, and then pull back on the road. And that's a lot better than it used to be. But yes, I don't know if I'll ever let go of this. I want to, but I don't know that I don't know. I think there's some concern there. Like, if I let it go, what then? So it's weird. It's weird.
You have to make the decision to let it go and see what happens.
Yeah, for sure.
What if is
for sure.
What if is my thing? What if you let it go and your life is much better? But instead you just to it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
Supposed to have this chat.
No, it's okay. It is what it is, Tonya. Like, whatever comes out, comes out.
This is what people need to hear, though. They need to hear that we are real people. We are real people, and we're going through our own stuff. In October, I went to Dream Builder Live in Dallas. I got to see Mary Morrissey on stage, and she was telling a story about Bob Proctor and her having a conversation about money. And I could see her paradigm around money right then and there. And I'm like, she's been studying this information for 40, 50, 60 years, and she still has those little underlying money paradigms. So I'm sure, Bob Proctor probably had he wasn't going to let us see it, but I'm sure he had some paradigms that he can, but we're all human. We all do. And all we want to do as coaches is help the next person live just a little bit higher in their awareness, just a little bit higher on that vibrational scale. Because, you were talking about feeling vibrations in the room when people come in or people around you. Well, the law of attraction is a secondary law to the law of vibration. And that's where the little stick man came from, Bob.
I like the stick man.
Right. But it's the vibration that you're vibrating. So right now, Stacey, you're really vibrating on a low vibration.
Sure.
Because you're in despair, you're in grief, you're in anger, and it's all in those lower vibrations on the scale. And what you want to do is just move up a little bit at a time. Sometimes it's putting on a song that you love. Sometimes my favorite thing is to tell people to just go dance naked in your living room, because just that makes you laugh. The thought of you dancing naked in your living room is funny. So it just brings your vibration up just a little bit.
Sure.
Love and enlightenment is at the top. So if we spread love, that's the right vibration.
It's funny you're talking about vibrations, and I'm sitting here crying. Um, and there was a study done on the strongest vibrating emotion. And for years we were taught, oh, it's gratitude, it's gratitude, it's gratitude. No, actually, it's authenticity. And so, yeah, I'm sitting here hurting. I brought up my brother, still touchy after 7 years. But I'm not going to pretend that I am healed, that I am past it, that I am not going to dip into a lower vibration. But what I am going to show you is I don't stay there. I don't have to stay there. I could choose to stay there, but I don't have to stay there, and I don't stay there for very long. I want to illustrate that even with all of my education and my years, I still don't have it all figured out. And I never will. I never will. There will always be another layer, another layer, another layer. And that's okay. That's okay. If you ever encounter a therapist or a coach or somebody, of that nature, a healer, a doctor, whatever, and they say, oh no, I'm 100% healed, run the other way. Run the other way, because they are not self-aware. Because if they were, they'd realize that there's some shit there still, and there will always be some shit there, and that's okay. And that's okay. What Tonya and I have done is learned and utilized strategies to help shorten times like being overwhelmed with grief and anger, to help shorten, especially for me, I specialize in negative self-talk. So help shorten that time that you absolutely beat the crap out of yourself in your head. Help shorten the time that you spend procrastinating and self-sabotaging yourself. That's what coaches do, is we help shorten the time in habits that aren't so great for you, and help you move forward. So I want to just make the distinction here between between therapists and coaches, because it's important to denote. And so therapists dig around in your childhood quite frequently, quite deeply, to understand where your trauma came from. Absolutely, that work is important. I've been doing it for 9 years. I will continue to do it. I have my sons in there now too. They're 16 and 18, because guess what? Mama caused some trauma when they were littler, when I wasn't as healed as I was, and I need to own that. And so that's how I help them. Coaches look at the habits that you're doing and say, okay, how do we change these so you can live tomorrow better than today? We don't really hang out in the trauma area. We don't really hang out in the childhood area and the past area. Unless we're a coach therapist or therapist coach, we're not certified. We are not licensed, and none of us should be hanging out in there. Now, there are some that do, and that gives coaching a bad name. And those are not my favorite people, for sure. But make sure that when and if you find a coach, that they have those ethics and that they stick to them, because it's important. It's important. What do you think about
the
that
truth
area?
Is one of us. So my job as a coach is to ask you the questions so that you come up with the answers yourself. So you don't have a dream. So what is the things you like? What is the things you love to do? If you don't find that you can afford a coaching program, well, what are you going to do in 5 years when you're still in the same exact spot?
Yeah. What is it costing you?
Feel? And then you pull from that pain, and are you worthy? Are you worthy of paying for your coaching program? Because, it may be, I don't think I'm worthy enough to pay that much, or, I got to talk to my husband about it. Well, he doesn't really have any say-so in what you do with yourself. So quit trying to talk to your husband about what you're going to pay for. So it's a decision. Like, we push you to create a decision. Make a decision for yourself to start. Make a decision for yourself to stay in the game, because as a life coach, I don't want someone to just pay me a boatload of money and come to the first session and then I never see them again. That is not what this is all about. I need you to be committed to yourself, to making a change, to finding who you are. So it's always, what can you do with what you have, with where you're at, that can move you closer in the direction of what it is you want.
Yeah.
Not to go dig up bones in the past. Let's just let them lie in the past till we get to the forgiveness, and then you can figure that out on your own. And then let's just start now with making a decision.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And I've worked with people that have therapists, and I also work alongside therapists. And so, you know, that absolutely is possible if you ever wanted to consider coaching, but you're in therapy. All I ask my clients to do is sign a release so I can discuss with their therapist. More of like areas I definitely shouldn't touch for whatever reason. I don't want to trigger anybody, especially if you've got things like CPTSD, or, you know, complex kind of mental health issues. I don't want to touch any of that. And so, as more aware as I can be, the better off that we all are, because I want to be able to speak with motivation, and compassion and empathy, and not trigger you to fall back into a hole. Like, that is absolutely not what I'm here for. You could do that on your own. You could do that on your own. You don't need me helping out, you know, pushing you back down the hill.
That's having to give them tools and techniques that if they do fall in the hole, what they can do to help lift themselves out of the hole. And it's a notice what you're noticing is the number one rule in my coaching, because if you don't notice what's going on with yourself, you don't know how to fix it. So
1000%.
Right?
Same thing with negative self-talk. The first thing that you have to do is notice that you even do it. The first thing, because if you don't know that you do it, you can't stop it, and you can't change it.
You'd be amazed at how many people do things without even thinking about them. Like you and your drive. They say that's actually meditation for most people nowadays, because like they just leave work and they end up at home and they're like, I don't even remember driving here, because you're just zoned in.
I would take that if they weren't running the lists in their heads.
Right.
If they were just very present and thinking nothing, yes, that would be an active meditation. But the fact is, they zone out like that because they're running the lists in their head, or previous conversations, or conversations they need to have, right? And so that it isn't meditation in that aspect.
No.
Gosh, the number of years that I did that, crazy.
All right. This was a great conversation.
Thank you for joining me, Tonya. I really appreciate. How can people find you?
If you would like to schedule a complimentary session with me, you can go on www.TonyamarieLifeCoach.com, and it hooks you directly to my calendar. You just schedule a session and we meet up just like this, and we talk about you and what you got going on, what you'd love to have going on, what your next steps are, whether it's coaching with me or not. It's just a conversation, free conversation. If you would like to find more information, you can go to TonyamarieBergeron.com, and that's my website.
So it'll all be linked in the description, my friends. So, you know, go down there and then go hang out, visit Tonya. Again, her specialty is in the law of attraction, law of reciprocity, all of the laws of nature. And so if you're ever curious about that, go hang out with her. And if you really want to stop beating yourself up in your head and set some boundaries, and really be your own best friend instead of your worst enemy, you guys know, links in the bio and all of that jazz. So thank you for joining us today. Tonya, thank you so much. And
thank you, Stacey, for having me.
We'll catch you next time, my friends.